All right. Well, welcome to week 2, everybody. Those of you that sent in early homeworks, I sent them back today. So hopefully you got those, and you all did really well. So it looks like those of you that are doing the work ahead of time are doing great. And I'm hoping that the rest of you are doing well as well. So let's start off with questions.
I had one question 310.
Okay.
Unless I have the wrong data set, it doesn't look the same as the snapshot on the homework questions, or at least I'm doing something wrong or not understanding something right.
Well, you're talking about like your histograms look different?
No, for example, you know, the average what is it, tax rate?
Yeah. Oh, for 310?
Yeah, 310.
Are you just supposed to make, unless I'm mistaken, aren't you just supposed to make 3 histograms for 310? You don't have to do any summary stats?
Yeah, but the histograms, but the snapshot that is on the homework that it says Alabama 70.4%, all that, the data set that I get in SAS, it doesn't look like that.
Oh, you know what? I think it is. I think the data set that you're looking at is for the next question. And it just looks like it's for 310 because I tried to save space and not make your homework break onto 2 pages.
Okay.
So you're not the first person to ask that, and I'm so stupid. I should mention this ahead of time.
Okay, all right, I got it. All right.
But yes, this all of this weird table is for 324.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like, somebody else had the same question. Yeah, it's very confusing. I was just trying.
I was like, I gotta be doing something really wrong here because it just doesn't.
Yeah.
I even tried to play with the data. Like, it doesn't make sense.
You know what? Okay, I'm gonna fix this right now because
thank you.
Since it's going on 2 pages anyways, let's just move this down here and get rid of the confusion.
That makes my life so much better. Like, I was asking everybody, like, this graph does not look like this. There's some that say 74%, but this histogram is not. Like, oh my God, I caused so much confusion. And I even emailed you about this one, like, which one do I use, the histogram or the plot one? Like, I'm just confused because it does not look right. And it was because I was looking at that data.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. All right, so I think that should be a little clearer now.
Yeah, that's what that does it. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, what else?
I have another question. One of the histograms, I'm trying to remember which question it was. The one that it says just to divide it on 6 or 7 groups.
Oh yeah. I think that's 3, 4.
Yeah, I couldn't remember how to do that well in
okay.
SAS.
So let's load 3, 4 and go into our tasks and graph and histogram. And then our analysis variable is fluoride levels. And then under appearance, if you click on bins, you can specify the number of bins and make it do 7 bins.
And to put the specific width of the bin, I know that
it
can be done by the code, with the code only.
Exactly. The only way to specify the width of the bins, or what number it starts at, your lowest bin starts at blank. The only way to do that is with the code. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And so if you do it this way, you're going to get, it's decent. It's fine. It's not great, but that's the best you're going to get out of it if you use 7. I kind of think that if you don't play around with the bin width and the bin starting place, it almost looks better with just 5 bins, in my opinion, because I'm not a big fan of having teeny tiny thin bins that the problem is that the scale is so big. It goes from 0 to 40. So in order to show 40, this frequency of, I'm assuming it's 1 or 2 is so darn low that it almost doesn't exist. So that's why I would think it'd be better to leave it at 5 or even at 6. And guys, as far as, I get students asking all the time, well, how many bins should I have? The answer is always, it's up to you. Whatever seems to fit your data best, unless if your data has an obvious break point, like for instance, if you were going to do a histogram that showed scores on a test, it would seem fairly obvious to break it up by grade letters, right? Go 90 to 100, 80 to 89, and so on and so forth. So you would have a bar for the A's, a bar for the B's, and so on and so forth. That would make sense. But if your data doesn't have an obvious breakout where, it's obvious the bins should be this, this, and this, then I would say just pick something that gives you a fairly decent looking histogram, and try to always make your bin widths friendly numbers. Like don't have a bin width of 7. You'd rather have a bin width of 5 or 10, 15, 20, right? Multiples of 5 or multiples of 2, right? 2, 4, 6, 8. So keep your bin width something that is simple enough that the average person who looked at it quickly could go, oh yeah, I get it. Right? Especially if you have a histogram that lists, the other thing I don't like about SAS is it lists the midpoint of the bins, which to me is crappy. I'd rather see the endpoints because that gives you, it tells you really what's going on. And I think if you do it in Excel, you can get it to do endpoints, which is nice. In fact, somebody just sent their homework to me. I want to say it's Patel, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Are you with us? I don't see your name, but they did their work in Excel, and it's beautiful, magnifique. Excel is gorgeous for graphs, right? So if you guys really want to get pretty looking graphs, I would say watch some of these videos, in the homework section that show you how to do things in Excel, and then do them in Excel because they're going to be much prettier than you're ever going to get out of SAS. And as I said before, having strong Excel skills is very marketable, right? Employers love that. So by all means, remember the school no longer requires you to do everything in SAS. So do stuff in Excel if you prefer. Okay, enough of me blathering on about that. What else you guys have question-wise?
I had a quick question. I did everything in R. Do I need to, I use R every day. Do I need to include the code?
No. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know it from Latin. So okay. That's awesome. Kudos. R is great, but yeah, I know nothing about it. So yeah, just put your output in there and that's fine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question, but it doesn't have to do with the homework. It has to do with one of the lectures.
Sure, go for it.
If I was wondering if you could explain class width, because
okay.
In the lecture you said that 17 would not be an understood value, and I didn't quite understand that. I was wondering if you could explain that for me.
Yeah, totally. So your bin width is the same thing as your class width, right? So if you had some data and you had it in a table, it would make sense to have values that went like 0 through 9, and then 10 through 19, and then 20 through 29, right? And if you did this, the class width here is 10, because the class width is the difference between the endpoints, right? So 10 minus 0, 20 minus 10, or 19 minus 9. You can't do the difference between these numbers because 9 minus 0 is 9, and that's not actually the class width because it's not counting all the numbers, right? If you count up the numbers 0 through 9, you'll see the other 10 numbers, right? Because you get 1 through 9 plus 0. So this has a class width of 10, and that's the definition of what a class width is. And so when I say a bin width is the same thing as a class width, because in SAS they just call them bins. But it wouldn't make, it's not that it wouldn't make sense, but if you had, let's start at 1. So if we went 1 through 17, and then we went 18 through 34, right? And then 35 through, what would that be, 51. People would be like, what the hell are you doing with these widths of 17, right? It makes people's heads hurt.
I see now, yes.
You see what I'm saying? As far as it's not as easy to kind of like see and understand as if as if you did, you know, 10s or 5s or 20s.
Okay. Okay. I got you. Okay. I got it now.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, one other question.
Yeah.
We have till tomorrow morning to turn the homework in, right?
Well, you have until 6 a.m. my time, 9 a.m. East Coast time to email it to me if you want feedback before you submit it for real.
Right, right. And you're on the West Coast, right?
Yeah. So that's why when I say
yeah, I'm in the same time zone. So
oh, okay. Yeah. So 6 a.m. your time.
6 a.m. Okay.
And that's only if you want me to review it. Otherwise, you know, the due date is Sunday at midnight East Coast time.
Well, I want you to review whatever I come up with before tomorrow because I didn't do so well last week, so I need help with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Send it in. Send it in. And guys, don't forget that you have your classmates to lean on as well. So don't be afraid to you know, post questions to the discussion board, what do they call it, the doctoral dialogue or whatever, and
Okay.
And you know, bounce things off people. That obviously it can't be, hey, what's the answer to 24, but it can be, you know, I put my data in and I'm getting a histogram that doesn't look right, any suggestions? And you could even, you know, post your histogram and go, okay, why does this look off, or something like that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What else, guys? And I apologize for the male positive guys. It's just my habit. I get called out on that sometimes, but it's just my habit. What else, folks, y'all?
So I had a question on question number 310.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody else had the same issue, but I mean, the question says to plot the three frequency tables. And then the very first question says that what are the major differences?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I see them all being almost the same. I don't know if
yeah, I know. It's kind of silly, isn't it? Yeah. I agree with you. There aren't really any major differences between all three. I really think that should be reworded with, you know, what's the major similarity between all three? Because what can you say about the skewness of all three of those histograms?
they're skewed to the left.
Exactly. So that's how I would answer that question. You know, there really aren't any differences. In fact, they're all skewed to the left. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of a silly question. I don't understand why that question exists, to be quite honest, because as you so acutely saw, they all look very similar.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
On that same note, on that same problem, 310, would it be helpful to try to graph it all on one graph to try to see the differences between the 3 years?
I guess you can do that in Excel and they kind of overlay with colors, but in my opinion, those things get too convoluted and it's much easier and cleaner to see 3 separate graphs than 3 stacked graphs, in my opinion. So the best thing to do, I think, is to just, like, if you were going to, let's say you were going to present your findings to somebody, whether in a paper or in a presentation, I would just put all 3 graphs together on the same PowerPoint slide, you know, side by side kind of thing. Or, you know, format them so that they would all fit in your document, you know, kind of all next to each other, or maybe all stacked on top of each other, just in such a way that the reader, the viewer, the audience, whatever, can see all 3 at once. So they can, in fact, see the similarities and the slight differences as well. But gosh, I mean, what is it? 96 and 02 or something. The last two, not 85, but the last two are almost identical on the upper end, and then the first 2 are almost identical on the lower end. So they're very similar, all 3 of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Can I ask about the article we have to do next? I think it's next week, real quick.
Yeah, please.
Am I looking for quantitative, qualitative? Does it matter? I started going through some in my field of study, but I wasn't quite sure exactly what I'm looking for.
Well, first and foremost, I would prefer that you find something in your field of study. Absolutely. Yes, that would be the first thing. And then ideally, if you can, find something in your field of study, or at least tangentially related to your field of study, that does in fact have some quantitative data to it. But it's not necessarily, if it's not quantitative, you just basically can't answer this question because there aren't going to be descriptive statistics. But you can answer everything else, right? I mean, there's still going to be a population of study. There's still going to be a sampling frame. There's still going to be sampling techniques, a sample size, data collection methods, right? There's going to be all of those things you can still have in a qualitative study. The only thing you really don't have are descriptive statistics, and that's totally fine. I'm totally fine if you can't discuss that one bullet point because your field of study just doesn't have quantitative data.
Did I read somewhere we can send it to you to look at just to make sure, or am I imagining that? I may have to be imagining that.
I believe somewhere it said to send me the article for me to like okay it, but I don't need to do that. You guys can, I'm sure you're fine finding an article because
okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure I'm going to look at that this week. So
yeah, no, that was a good question.
I have a question.
Yes, Sheree.
So for the mini project, are we able to send that to you before we submit it as well?
No, only homeworks.
Only homework assignments?
The mini project and the final project, you're on your own, but I will, of course, be more than happy to go over things and answer questions during our normal meet sessions.
Okay.
So start working on it now, because it builds on everything we learned. So as you're doing week 2 stuff, you might as well look at the mini project and see if there's any similar things you have to do on the mini project that you're doing in week 2. So while it's fresh in your mind, you go, oh, well, I can do that again on the mini project. And then if you have questions, you could have asked them tonight. And then the same thing for next week. As you're doing next week's stuff, work on the mini project as well, and then ask questions about the mini project next Thursday, or even next Monday if we have time after the lecture.
Okay, got it. Also for question 3, I think it's 24. Let me pull it up. Yeah, 324. Where it says compute the mean, median, and mode separately for the 3 groups.
Yeah.
I did it where I don't know what I did. I don't know. Okay, so I thought I was doing it for the 3 groups.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do.
No, but I didn't do that. So
okay.
I found this video of you on YouTube or something that I was looking at, and I think that's where I was following you on that.
Okay.
And I think that's where I got that from. But it just says like the count is 2, 2, and 2, and then it has the mode. Or maybe I was looking at the video from a previous.
Okay, I think you might have grabbed the wrong variable in your analysis, because so if we load the data for 324 and we look at it, we can see that the data itself is really here under the rate variable. Mm-hmm. And then we have this grouping variable that says, okay, all of these cities are in group 1, and then all of these are in group 2, and then all of these are in group 3. So when you want to go ahead.
So what I was going to say is, I think I grouped it when I did it over again after I submitted it to you. I grouped it. However, on group 1, there's no mode. It's just like a dot or something.
No, you're absolutely correct. Group 1 has no mode. Yes, absolutely. Group 2 has 2 modes. Group 3 has 1 mode. And then when you put all of the data together and run it without groups, basically just run, all 30 pieces together, it will have 3 modes.
Okay. So I didn't get 2 modes.
You won't out of SAS. Remember, the only way to get multiple modes out of SAS is to use the code. If you just run summary statistics, SAS always just reports the smallest mode. So you either have to run this code for finding multiple modes, or you can just visually inspect it, right? You can open the data in Excel and grab, basically grab everything for group 2 and go, put it over here just so you can work with it, and then sort it, and then just kind of visually go, okay, there's 281s. Oh, there's 394s. So it looks like 94 would be the mode of this one, right? Now, this is a different data set. This is for 55. This isn't for that data set. But you see what I'm saying is that's what you would do for the 3 groups, is just take their individual numbers, sort them, and then just kind of visually find the modes. And then there's also in Excel, you can do equal, mode. There it is, mode.multi. I always do that. Equals mode. You got to click. And then highlight your stuff and then run it. And if it has multiple modes, I thought it was supposed to display multiple modes. Now this one doesn't have multiple modes. Let's make multiple modes. 98, 98. Okay.
It does.
There
That's
it
how I
goes.
did mine.
Yeah, so there it goes.
Yeah,
See
that's
how
how I did mine.
I put 3 98s in there, and all of a sudden the 98 just appeared underneath it. So that's how the mode multi works. Like if I go in here and make this 116, 116, it's like magic, boop, and it appears. So that's a really cool function in Excel, is you can find multiple modes just using mode.multi.
So what am I gonna say? So do you want both of the modes for that? So do I get the one that has the one mode and then go back and get the?
I want you to report all of the modes. Yes. So however you end up getting the modes is up to you. But yes, for group 2, you need to report both. And for, all 30 pieces of data put together, you need to report all 3.
Okay.
Do you guys know how to get summary statistics for the groups out of SAS easily? Do you know how to use a grouping variable in SAS? Does anybody want to see that?
You can definitely show us.
Okay. So I've got the data for 24 loaded, and it's in import 3. If we go to summary statistics and grab our data, import 3, and then the analysis variable is rate, right? And then down here, it's got the classification variables. And then it's also got group analysis by when you do additional roles. So if you go under group analysis by and add the grouping variable, it will now group everything by this variable. So if you hit run, it'll give you the results for those 3 groups. So for group 1, here's my mean, standard deviation, min, max number, because that was the default for what you get. So now if you go to options and go, okay, I don't need any of this junk, but I need my median, right? And I need my mode, and then run it again. There's my mean, median, no mode. There's my mean, median, the first mode. There's my mean, median, and the only mode. And then for group 2, you just have to find the second one. And then, of course, if you go back and take the group away and rerun it, then it does it for the whole set of 30 things. And again, that's the first mode, but there are 2 more to find. So that's a nice thing about SAS, is it's really easy to use a grouping variable. You just have to put it in the group analysis by spot, and then there's your groups.
Thanks.
Of course. Anything else?
Yes, I got one last question on same thing with the problem 3.10.
Okay.
I know that with the previous assignment, I thought that there were multiple answers to a question, but I guess there was just basically one answer, for like one right answer. When it comes to question 3.10, especially the B and, is it the B and C? No, for the C and D.
Yeah.
is there just one possible solution?
Oh, no,
Or
no,
can
no,
you
no.
explain it?
Yeah, any kind of opinion type question like that has multiple solutions as long as you could back it up. In the first set of questions for week 1, there were things that maybe sounded like an opinion question, you know, like what sampling technique should you use in this scenario? But that really has a best answer because there is an actual sampling technique that's better than the others for these things. You know, the one that asked, is it a problem with either technique A or B if you remove one of the recipes? Well, again, that sounds like an opinion, but you're actually evaluating the statistical validity of those sampling models, right? So you can see how there's an actual right or wrong answer to that. But, you know, why do you think the plots have changed and how could Congress use? Those are definitely just opinion-based questions that there are no wrong answers to those.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
Prince, I am so happy that you asked that question because I even emailed that question, you know, are there just straight yes and no questions, or is, you know, can you answer some questions based on opinion? So I'm happy to see that I wasn't the only person that had that question.
And guys, please, if any questions seem to you like you're not sure if it's an opinion based or if I'm looking for a specific answer, please feel free to ask or even post that to the doctoral dialogue. I have the doctoral dialogue set up so that every time somebody posts there, it emails me. So I get those posts immediately, and then I can go in there and answer your question. And then everybody can see both the question and the answer, because as you just pointed out, you and Prince both had basically the same question. So it would be nice for everybody to see those so they can go, oh yeah, I'm not stupid. Somebody else has that same question, right? Because there are some questions in here that are definitely just opinion stuff. And in fact, guys, in all honesty, I don't even look at C and D when it comes to grading. I just look and see that you answered it. I don't even read it, you know, because why waste my time and yours? It's your opinion. I look at the stuff that matters. Like, you know, did you get these things right? Did you get the questions right? That's what I want you spending your time on. If it was up to me, I would get those questions completely eliminated, but you know, it's not my call.
Okay, so I ran it again in Excel, and I only got one mode for the group 3 for 324.
Okay, but you have to do the mode multi to get it to work.
So that's what I did. I did the mode multi, and and when I'm looking at it, it looked like it's only one mode. Like,
okay, so this is, you're talking about group 3 or all of them together?
Group 3.
Yeah, group 3 only has one. Group 2 has 2.
Oh, okay.
And then the whole set altogether has 3.
The whole set all together.
Yeah. So when you look at group 1 all by itself, so when you look at just these 10 cities, there's no mode. When you look at these 10 cities by themselves, there's 2 modes. When you look at these 10 cities by themselves, there's 1 mode. When you look at all 30 cities together as one big group, there ends up being 3 modes.
Okay, because 2 has 2 modes.
Well, it is because the modes in 2 and the modes in 3 both have a frequency of 2. So when you put them together, you get 3 of them have a frequency of 2. But please don't think that just because this set has 2 and this set has 1, when you put them all together, you have 3, because this set could have had a mode that showed up 3 times, and these 2 modes could have shown up just twice. So when you put it all together, you still would have only had the 1 mode from the 3rd group because it had a frequency of 3.
Okay.
Did I just confuse you?
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, you know what a mode is. It's the thing that shows up the most, right? It's the thing with the most frequency, right? The thing that there are the most copies of it in the data set. It just so happens coincidentally that in this data set, the modes for group 2 both show up twice, and we can see them right here. It's 1.57 and 1.55. They both have a frequency of 2. Everything else has a frequency of 1. So that's why you get 2 modes in this set of data. When you look at this set of data, everything shows up once. There aren't any duplicates. So that's why there's no mode. When you look at this set of data, you have 1 duplicate, 0.7. It shows up with a frequency of 2. So now when you put all 30 data pieces together, you still have 1.57 showing up twice, 1.55 showing up twice, and now 0.7 also showing up twice. And that's why you have 3 modes. But what I'm saying is, it's not always going to be the case that if you have, 2 modes in one subset and 1 mode in another subset, and you put all the data together, you're all of a sudden going to have 3 modes. That's not the case. When you put all the data together, you have to reevaluate it, and the mode turns up based on frequency counts. It just so happened that all of these modes had a frequency count of 2. But if we came in and all of a sudden, instead of 0.68, this was 0.70, well, 0.70 would still be the only mode for this set of data, but it now has a frequency of 3. So when we look at the entire set of data, it would no longer have 3 modes, because 1.57 is twice, 1.55 is twice, doesn't matter, because 0.7 is 3 times. So it would have 1 mode for the entire set of data, and it would be the 0.7.
Okay, so did you want all this on one chart?
All of this, oh, you mean like all of the data in one chart? All the results?
Yeah.
You don't have to put it in one table. As you saw in my output in SAS, it puts it in 3 different tables, and that's fine. If you want to put it together in one pretty little table, that's fine too. But I don't care. If you want to just basically do a screen grab of these 3 and paste it into your Word document, good to go.
Okay, so for the one where I did the modes and it only showed me the one where 1 was a dot, 2 was a, do I just go back in and type in group 2 modes and put in the other mode for
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly perfect. In fact, guys, I'm glad you brought up this question. Should I put this or should I put it in a pretty little table? I personally prefer that you just screenshot this, because it shows me how you got your answers, right? So if anything is wrong, I can know a little bit more of maybe why. I can look at it and go, okay, well, they did it in SAS, and I know some of the common mistakes in SAS. If you just give me a table with the results, I don't know how the hell you got them. Did you do it in SAS? Did you do it in Excel? Did you copy it from someone else? How'd you get them, right? And so when they're wrong, I'm like, oh, I have no idea to tell you why they're wrong. So I prefer just screenshots of your results. And if you do it in Excel, that's fine. Just copy and paste it in, from Excel. If you do it in R, same thing, screenshots. And then, like you said, yeah, because SAS doesn't show you the right thing, then you paste this into the Word document, and then you just write next to it. Group 2 has a second mode of, blah, 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 or, has 2 modes, this and this. And then same thing for, when you put all the data together and you get the one little readout from SAS, then you type underneath it, there are actually 3 modes. They're this, and this, that kind of thing.
So now I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you've already turned in your homework for feedback and you didn't take a screenshot of the whole thing, you took you did a screenshot, or, you grabbed the chart that was created. Now, do we have to go back and
No.
show the whole picture?
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
Are you saying like you screenshotted this one individually and this one individually and this one individually?
Like if you hit that, I mean, I know you know this, but if you hit that arrow up right
Yeah.
It comes up in another screen, and you can just, and you can just like copy and paste like straight down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you did this.
Yeah. So I didn't show all the other stuff because that's what came up in the other chart.
No, that's great. I don't want you to show the other stuff. So I'm sorry if I was confusing there. When I say take a screen grab, I mean literally take a screen grab of exactly this, which would be just this stuff. Yeah, I don't want all the extra crap, because then this gets too small and I can't read it with my poor old eyes. I'm 51, guys. I can't read these things anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Wait, no, I'm 50. I don't want to make myself a year older. Oof, bad enough.
That too is hilarious. I thought I was the only one that did that.
You know, ever since the pandemic, the years have just kind of melted together, and I can't even keep track of what year it is anymore. All right, any other homework questions? All right, so let me remind myself, the mini project is due September 5th, which is the end of next week. And the critique is the 9th. Yeah, okay. So I would suggest starting on the mini project now, folks, peoples, because it is due basically a week from Sunday, right? A week from this Sunday. So you have basically a week and a half to start working on it. And there are a bunch of things in it that are similar to what we're doing, right? So for instance, if we just look really quickly at what it asks you to do, generate frequency tables. Well, we were kind of doing frequency tables with this homework set, right? Generate at least 2 different cross tabulations. Well, we didn't do those. We talked about those a while ago. We haven't talked about Pareto charts, but we'll talk about all those next week. Okay, find the 5-number summary, mean and standard deviation for all 3 quantitative variables. All right, so we did summary stats this week, right? We didn't do all 5-number summary. We didn't do the 5-number summary, but we did do the mean. And by the way, we haven't talked about this yet, but the 5-number summary is the minimum, the first quartile, the median, which is the second quartile, the third quartile, and then the max. So there's your 5: minimum, Q1, Q2, Q3, and max. That's the 5-number summary. And that's something that we'll talk about next week. But if you want to start working on these ahead of time, of course, we know what the mean is. We know what the standard deviation is, right? So you can do all that by simply going into SAS. And when you go to options, you just go, okay, well, I want the minimum, the maximum, the median, the mean, the standard deviation, right? We don't need the mode. And then if we go to percentiles, we can get the lower quartile and the upper quartile. That's it. So there's our 3, right? And then min and max, that's my 5-number summary. And then the standard deviation and the mean is the only other thing they ask for. So if I run that, that would basically be the output that I would need for the quantitative variables in the mini project. So that's that, right? And then side-by-side box plot, we haven't done that yet, but we've done histograms, right? So you can do histograms. And then we haven't done scatter plots yet. So you can see that we've kind of done about half of the things already on this. So you can start doing those things now while they're still fresh in your mind. And then as we talk about the other things next week, you can tackle those things. So I would suggest, getting on this now so it doesn't all pile up on you next week.
I just had a quick question.
Mhm.
Are we going to have class that Monday of Labor Day?
Oh, what is that? The 6th?
I think so, yeah.
I was planning on it.
Okay.
You can always watch the recordings, if you guys aren't going to be there, which is totally understandable.
So we got 2 assignments due on that 5th. The mini project and the homework.
And the homework. Yes. Yeah. And unfortunately, that pattern repeats itself, right? So the week that you have your critique due on the 9th, you also have homework due that week on the 12th, right? The 9th is just the Thursday instead of the Sunday, right? Because you have to submit it to the discussion board by Thursday to give people enough time to read it and respond to it, because part of the grade of your critique is not only your critique, but then your responses to other people's critiques. So that one's kind of in the middle of the week, but it's, you still have homework on that same week. And then luckily, you can see that there's nothing the week of the 25th, right? So you have homework on the 19th, and then the final project is the only thing you have to do that week. So the mini project is really the only quote unquote big thing that it feels like you've got 2 assignments due on the same day, but it really isn't that big. As I showed you guys with the description, it's a lot of stuff we've already done, and then it's a lot of stuff that we're going to do that week. It don't make it fancier than it needs to be. This does not have to be, APA formatted. You don't need a bibliography. You don't need a cover page. You don't need any of that. Think of this as, what do they call them? An executive summary, right? Where, sure, if there are questions that require you to discuss something, then you discuss it in full sentences with proper punctuation. But for the most part, it's just, here's some tables. Here's some things, right? Here's some stuff. I mean, you're basically just generating a bunch of junk and just slapping it into a Word document. And then when they talk about, bibliography citation, well, that's if you actually, use something, but you probably won't. And then any interesting information you found and your interpretation of each summary, right? So you are supposed to discuss every single one of these things, right? So basically you take some data, you spit out a graph or a table or whatever it is they ask you to do, and then you briefly discuss it. Is there something interesting about it, right? So for instance, when you do frequency tables for the 3 categorical variables, discuss anything they have in common or anything that stands out as being different amongst them. That's it. Just a couple sentences, right? When you do 2 cross tabulations, again, same thing, right? Because you're doing 2 cross tabulations, it would make sense that the only kind of discussion or interpretation you would have of them would be, what do they have in common? Or what, major differences do they have? A Pareto chart. Discuss anything interesting about it. 5-number summary. Well, again, since you're doing it for 3 things, it would make sense to discuss any similarities or differences between those 3 things, right? Oh, wow, the mean for this one was hugely different than the other 2, or all 3 of these seem to have a very similar mean, and then maybe discuss briefly why you think that would be. Because, this isn't just data, it's actually data from something, right? It's blood pressure readings before and after an experiment, and it's things like that. So the data has context to it, right? So you can think about where the data came from and why it might be similar or different. And then the side-by-side box plot, of course. I mean, if you're going to do a side-by-side box plot, how are you going to discuss that? Well, heck, you're going to compare the 2 box plots and discuss, oh, wow, this one group was, exactly the same as the other, or, this group, the only difference was the outliers, or, something like that. So basically discuss similarities and differences. And it kind of just goes over and over again, right? 3 histograms, well, discuss similarity and differences, right? A scatter plot showing the relationship between 2 things. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, because nothing's obvious. But if you're going to do a scatter plot, for those of you that are familiar with what a scatter plot is, what do you think would be the obvious thing to discuss as far as a scatter plot is concerned? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
The correlation.
Yes, very good. Exactly. Yeah. Discuss the correlation and how strong it is, right? The scatter plot, the shape of the scatter plot shows me a weak correlation, or shows me a moderate correlation, or shows me a strong correlation, and it's a positive correlation, or it's a negative correlation, things like that. So that's how you would discuss the last 2. And that's all I'm looking for as far as, they talk about interpreting each summary. Okay. So it's not a huge paper. We're not talking about paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. We're talking about just a couple sentences for each of your outputs, and that's it. So I just want to be able to see that A, you know how to get the output that was required. B, that everything is correct, right? So you were obviously using the right data and the right, things. And then C, you can discuss them briefly in such a way that I know that you know what the heck you're doing, right? You discuss it in such a way that you describe you know, some differences or some similarities. So that basically proves to me that you get it. Make sense?
Yeah, just a quick question, sorry.
No, fine.
With the scatter plot, when it says to find the correlation, are you looking for the Pearson coefficient, the R value?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And we'll talk about these more next week, but there are two ways in SAS to get the correlation. You can just go to, is it multivariate? No. Oh, right there. You could do correlation analysis under statistics and get it that way. But you could also, when you run the scatter plot, there's a way that you can, like on your output, change an option, tick, you know, like tick a box, and it will output the correlation that way as well. Okay, anything else? Susan, I don't know if you just showed up late or if you just turned on your camera, but do you have any questions that maybe you didn't hear?
Sorry, I've been here.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that if, you know, if anybody shows up late, I just want to make sure that there wasn't anything that maybe they didn't
Thank you.
get a chance to ask.
It wasn't her, it was me. I showed up late.
No, it's just Susan just all of a sudden popped up on my screen, her camera. So I didn't know if that was a late show or just a camera finally turned. Brandy, do you have any questions?
I do have a question. Sorry.
No.
All the noise in the back. Stop, my kids.
Don't apologize for kids ever.
So I guess when we're submitting, when we want to pre-submit our work to you, are we still putting it in the Dropbox, or are you having a, or would you prefer that that be emailed to you?
No, so I don't know about the Dropbox confusion. It's always emailed directly to me. And
Okay,
and
okay.
don't email through Canvas. You have to email directly to me, right? Use
Okay.
my email address of, you know, craig.mcbride@franklin, and then send it to me as a Word document, and make sure you label it correctly as either E1 in your last name or E2 in your last name, depending on which section you're in.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yep, of course. Anything else? All right. Well, if there's no further questions, we can adjourn early and give you guys some extra time to get working on that mini project.
Thanks, Dr. McBride.
Anytime. See you guys Monday.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good night.
All right.